You can thank Vox's Productions for this intro. He said to me, "CJ, you like putting Family Guy clips in your videos, right?" He said it summed up Brie Larson quite accurately, but I thought, why not make a more general point about what Disney was doing with the film? Because that is what they were doing, milking feminism for all it was worth. It is a bit of a shame that you can't really talk about this film without also addressing the politics surrounding it. I mean, you can look at the film purely in terms of its cinematography and editing and all that stuff, but the politics and the controversy surrounding it are such a big part of the conversation that it feels wrong to ignore them. I don't think the politics of a film or any controversy surrounding it should affect the score of the film in itself, so I don't believe in giving a film a bad score just because I don't like something that one of the actors or directors said. So I think it's wrong to rate films on that basis or let external things like that affect whatever score that you give to the film. Even though I didn't actually end up giving Captain Marvel a score in the end. If I did give it a score, I'd give it like maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10. And while I do think that review bombing as a tactic can have its merits when it comes to consumers telling, big companies that they're not happy with what they're doing, I don't think we should allow it to affect our perceptions of the film itself. When it comes to Brie Larson, I mean, her comments didn't really affect me personally at all. I was just like, oh, whatever. I do think what she said was blown out of any reasonable proportion, and I do think people overreacted and continue to overreact, but she really didn't do herself any favours. And even, if you take what she actually said, it's still a case of seeing diversity as being about things like your gender or your sexuality or your race, rather than your background in life, your culture and things like that, which might have more of an impact. Even if it wasn't her intention, she came across and continues to come across as being quite antagonistic and dismissive and just really not helping herself at all. Like, she's turning into a parody of what people on the internet think feminism is and criticise feminism for being. Like, that's what she's setting herself up to be. I mean, I do understand that it must be nice for, women and little girls to have role models in cinema they can look up to and aspire to and stuff. The thing is, you can do that in a film without pushing it as hard as they did in this one. I think if they'd just been more subtle about it, and if Brie Larson just hadn't been a bit of an idiot about it, people wouldn't have really cared, honestly. Like, it is possible to raise up women without putting men down, which is kind of what the film did in parts. I mean, as I said in the review, there were some lines of dialogue that were clearly intended to address, like, real-life sexism, but there was only one example in the film that didn't feel out of place, that didn't feel forced. I just don't think that's how you do it. It became very distracting, and it was clear from the outset that they were going to make the film about its politics rather than just about a superhero, and I think that's what turned a lot of people off. And the whole thing just comes across as very insincere, and Disney rubbing their hands together, bringing in the crowds that maybe wouldn't see other Marvel movies, but they will come in and see this. And clearly it's working for them because Captain Marvel is making so much money, and people are saying, oh, this defies the idea that people don't want to see a film with a woman in it. I don't think that's what anyone was saying. Like, of course it's going to make money though. It's a Marvel film, and it's the only Marvel film that we've had since Infinity War, and it's set between Infinity War and Endgame, and it sets up a character who's going to play an important role in Endgame, so of course people are going to go and see it. So I certainly don't think the fact that a load of people have gone to see this in any way invalidates my point or validates the message of the film at all. It just means that the controversy and the marketing worked, and that's why they do it and will continue to do it, because it works. So, to talk about the process of making this video for a minute, the decision to review Captain Marvel was a very last-minute one. It was the Thursday before the movie was going to be released the next day, and I was meant to be working on another video, but I wasn't really feeling like it. Then I saw that my local cinema was having a midnight screening of Captain Marvel, so I thought, you know what, why not? I'll go to that, and I'll stay awake all night, and just work on a review all night and get it out for the Friday night, just in time for the weekend to, maximise the views. I mean, it's the film that everybody was talking about at that time. Vox's Productions, he's making a video on it, still currently making a video on it. I'm quite excited for that. But yeah, loads of people have been covering this movie. Loads of reviews for the movie were already out. So I thought this could be something that I lent my 2 cents to. So I went to see it and I decided, yeah, fine, I'll go and see it, and I'll use it as an opportunity to comment on the politics and the controversy surrounding the film, and that surrounded other films in general as well. I thought this was a good opportunity to discuss them. So I thought, why not? So I tried to stay awake all night. That failed. So I ended up getting bouts of 4 hours sleep over the next couple of days. Managed to finally get it out for Saturday afternoon, and almost wrecked myself in the process. It's kind of why I decided to myself that I wasn't gonna try to review films as they're out in cinemas anymore. Like I did it with The Happy Time Murders and Slenderman, and both times like I rushed out a review in order to get it out as early as possible to maximize views. And I think you can kind of tell that this video was a bit rushed. I definitely made some mistakes in the editing. When I said in the video that people go and see the movie thinking they're contributing to the cause of feminism, there was supposed to be something on the screen there, like I was going to put a video of like the Women's March or something related to feminism, but I ended up completely forgetting about it, and some of the attributions of the articles were incorrect, and these are all things I didn't notice until I watched the video again the day after I'd uploaded it. So yeah, it does feel like a rush job, but at least I'd set myself a strict deadline and managed to get it out on time, having been in a bit of a slump for a while. So that was good at least. And as a consequence of, the fact that the video was a rush job, and also I didn't have the footage of the movie to go through, this was never going to be an in-depth analysis. I could have done an in-depth analysis if I'd gone to see the movie enough times, maybe, but that wasn't what I set out to do. So consequently, I did have to skip over a lot of things that I was going to talk about in the film. For example, the use of sound was sometimes a bit off, like sometimes the dialogue was almost inaudible. Also, the use of songs in some scenes was really weird. Like, they used Nirvana's Come As You Are during one scene, and also Just a Girl by No Doubt. And both times, it just seemed like a very weird choice. Also, I think that the way the film handled Nick Fury's character was pretty poor, let's be honest. I mean, I know it's meant to be a younger Nick Fury, who's a little bit less sure of himself, maybe, a bit less developed. He hasn't become the more hardened, more serious character we see in later films. But even so, he did almost feel like a rookie compared with Captain Marvel in this, and like I said in the video, the explanation they give for why he lost his eye and wears an eye patch is such bullshit. And yeah, I just didn't think that Captain Marvel herself was very sympathetic at all. Like, for example, she lets Nick Fury spend a while getting a fingerprint in order to open a door when she could have blasted the door open, and she knows she could have done that, but she says she did it because she didn't want to steal his thunder, which is it's just really stupid. Like, why did they have her do that? Like, it was funny, but it was funny because of his reaction rather than anything that she did. It didn't make her character very endearing at all, and her backstory was pretty underdeveloped as well. Like, there was a lot that probably needed explanation that was just kind of glossed over. I did actually go to see the film again after I made my review, and I did enjoy it more the second time I watched it, but maybe that's because I wasn't thinking so hard about it. There were some things that I thought were issues when I first watched it, but were actually explained in the movie. It turned out not to be issues, but then there were other things I realised were issues, and upon watching other people's reviews, I realised, oh yeah, it has a problem here and here and here. I need to add a correction, actually. I said in the review that the visual effects were stellar throughout. Actually, upon a second viewing, some of them are really not good. Like the CG of the cats, for example, is very noticeable at times. So yeah, I would make that one correction. So I do stand by my overall judgment of the film, and especially in light of the other Marvel films that I've watched. Since I watched Captain Marvel, I watched Civil War again, I watched Thor Ragnarok, Infinity War, a bunch of others, and Captain Marvel by comparison is just extremely disappointing. I think the film was ruined by its over-reliance on its main character, who actually isn't as interesting as they want us to believe she is. Like, she is quite a boring character. And I do think Brie Larson played her to the best of her ability, considering what she was given. Unfortunately, that's not saying very much. So going into the review, I was worried that I wouldn't be able to find enough of the right material, because I did have to find it over a very short period of time. So, there's things like clickbait articles, politicized marketing, like that kind of thing. I was worried that I wouldn't find enough, and some of the stuff I found, I guess, wouldn't strictly classify as clickbait, but I think I did a good enough job overall. And while I was editing and scripting, like, more and more stuff came to light, and I just had more and more stuff to add in. Like the part about Rotten Tomatoes deleting reviews, YouTube changing its algorithm, to change what kind of videos of Brie Larson were being shown in the search results. The podcast where the reviewer says, oh yeah, sometimes we just have to give films good reviews even though we disagree with it. Loads of that stuff came up while I was editing the video, and then I had the opportunity to put it in. It's just amazing to me how this stuff just all tumbled out at once. And there's almost certainly going to be more. Like, this controversy is going to keep going and going and going. And I think, like Ghostbusters 2016 and other films like that, I think Captain Marvel is only really going to be remembered for the controversy surrounding it and not for any merits that the film itself has. I definitely think that all the praise that this film is getting is certainly undeserved. And I do think the hatred of the film has been blown out of all proportion as well, don't get me wrong. But ultimately, Captain Marvel would have been a footnote in the history of the MCU and superhero movies were it not for the controversy. So I guess it's kind of been helped in that regard. And basically, everybody wins, except those who appreciate good films. And if Black Panther is anything to go by, I'm guessing Captain Marvel will be nominated for major awards, despite the fact it won't deserve any of them. But let's hope not. But yeah, thanks for listening to this audio commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.